Oh,
We are live, Madam Chair.
wonderful. Thank you so much. At 5:02 p.m., I'm going to call the September 6th Quality of Life Committee meeting to order. May I please get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Counselor Chavez, Counselor Lee Garcia,
Here.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Present.
Counselor Villarreal,
Present.
Chair Cassett.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Any changes from staff or the committee? And if not, can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda. Nothing was pulled earlier. Are there any last minute polls? And if not, can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Got a motion? Can I get a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, rolling right along. We are going to our presentation. It is a presentation on Aprende. It's the Early Childhood Apprenticeship Program. We have Katrin Allred and Crystal. I was like, you're not on there. Crystal Sanchez here to present about the progress, and Julie Sanchez here as always to be wonderful. So you all take it away. All right, real fast, make sure that you're right into that mic or else they won't show up. Oh, it was off. Yep. That mic is very important because it's how the people who are watching us on YouTube or Zoom are going to be able to hear you.
Great.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Katrin Allred, and I'm the director of the Early Childhood Center of Excellence at Santa Fe Community College. And I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Crystal Sanchez. I am the Aprende Program Manager at SFCC.
So we're here to give you a little progress report and update on what the Aprende program is. So we started with this sort of large theory of change based on the fact that there's a childcare crisis. Many centers had closed, and the centers that were open were really struggling with workforce. And so when we're thinking about economic mobility, economic development for the city of Santa Fe, I think one of the things that the crisis peeled apart is the idea that we need childcare in order for people to go to work, in order for students to go to school. And so how do we build that workforce? So we were looking at what the existing workforce is. As part of the Santa Fe Early Childhood Steering Committee, we really heard from employers that they needed something to bring new people to the field. And so this theory of change really looks at the idea of bringing more people to the field, empowering the people that are already in the field with short-term outcomes of fully staffed childcare center and long-term outcomes of children in Santa Fe receiving high quality early care and learning that sets them up for the rest of their future. And so when we started this with Aprende, the idea of apprenticeship has come up as a really unique and innovative way to build this workforce. But one of the things that we figured out in this process is that apprenticeship requires someone to be employed. And while we have a crisis in childcare, many people don't meet the minimum requirements from accreditation, from a center to become employed in the field. And I can speak from the kids campus at Santa Fe Community College in that we get applications all the time from people in retail, hospitality, but we can't hire them without experience. And so that's where the idea of the pre-apprenticeship came into play. And so what the pre-apprenticeship does is it brings people who can't be employed because they're lacking credentials or experience and gives them that. So that is how we are building the pipeline, is we start with pre-apprenticeship, which is 150 hours in an employer setting and minimum of 6 credits of coursework. And so by the time they've finished their child development certificate, which consists of 12 credits of coursework that count towards the associate degree, they've had 6 months of experience and an opportunity for employers to see if this is a grow your own situation. And so that is how we are building the workforce with this program. People start as pre-apprentices, they move into apprenticeship, and then we are, this is the future because we've only been doing this for less than a year, moving people on to those bachelor's degree or alternative licensure programs. And so that's how this really unique and innovative program is rebuilding the early childhood workforce here in Santa Fe. But we have a lot of support. As you know, the early childhood system in New Mexico, there's been a lot of funding. And so there's Opportunity Scholarship where our students get free tuition. There's also the Early Childhood Education and Care Scholarship, where we developed a unique partnership. Normally you have to be employed to get this scholarship, but we've set something up so that our pre-apprentices also get the scholarship. And last year there were stipends for taking coursework. There's the statewide Early Childhood Mentor Network, which supports stipends for mentor teachers, and the increased funding for childcare assistants in pre-K has made early childhood a field where there's a living wage. And that's one of the big changes that we've seen pre and post COVID, is you can go into an early childhood career and start at $20 an hour with an associate degree. And that's big strides from the minimum wage jobs that we're currently, or that were in the past. And so one of the things with apprenticeship is that we work with our area employers to set a wage scale so that when they complete their certificate, they get a raise. When they complete their professional certificate, they get a raise. And then when they get their associate degree, they get a raise. And so we're really stepping up wages as well as credentialing through this program. So the main components, we talked a little bit about that as far as pre-apprentices start with that child development certificate, credits, work skills. Crystal, I'm speaking on behalf of her for time reasons, but leads monthly meetings that are looking at soft skills, that help with resumes, that help with child development, so that they're getting all of the additional skills that they're not necessarily getting through their schoolwork. We also really partner closely with our area employers so that they are supporting these apprentices as well. We're providing training like CPR and first aid so that that isn't necessarily on the employer to do, but we're getting that taken care of right up front. And then there's the stipend that they earn for their field work. They do 150 hours and that's a $2,000 stipend. Last year, with the state kicking in an additional stipend, students had an opportunity of $4,000 a term with their coursework and the field work. And that made a difference because they were able to stop working at Starbucks, stop doing the job that they were doing on the side just to make enough and really be able to focus on this career path. And then when they finish the pre-apprenticeship, many of them have gone on to be employed, which then makes them eligible as an apprentice. And so that's really the phase of the program we're in now. We have had 41 pre-apprentices. That's counting this fall. So I'm cheating a little with the numbers. But they are all moving on this pipeline as they get their certificates and then transition to employment. So our current employer partners are listed: the First Presbyterian Church of Santa Fe, Kids Campus, the Head Start, Early Head Start programs through Presbyterian, Turquoise Trail Charter School, and Growing Up New Mexico, Connie. We're working with Santa Fe Public Schools and helping some of our other centers who need to get their staff qualified a little bit more to mentor our students. But we're really excited about the number of employers that have stepped up to this and are wanting to participate. And so when we're thinking about recruitment, we're also trying to figure out where is this potential workforce? We're recruiting from families that have their children at our local employers, new early childhood students, word of mouth. We're hoping to partner with the work-based learning program in the Santa Fe Public Schools to create a pathway from their program to ours, and just working with our community partners and nonprofits. The demographics for 2022-23, 87% Hispanic, 87% women, and 75% bilingual, which is huge because many of our programs are bilingual programs. And so being able to recruit that diverse workforce. And in our first cohort, 13% were men. And that is a huge number in early childhood. And it makes a huge difference in those centers when there are men in those caregiving roles. And so that's something we were really proud of last year. This year, the demographics are a little different. So we're going to keep recruiting to make sure that we can bring more men into the field of early childhood. And these are just some basic numbers. Each term, we've had about 17 participants. Most of them returned from semester to semester. Some dropped out. Many of them completed the child development certificate or will be completing it this term. And so when you're looking at the workforce and community impact, that's 27 early childhood classrooms in the city that had additional support, that were able to stay open, that had additional staffing. And that's approximately 260 children that had that extra attention that came from having another person in the field. 9 students received job offers and 1 started her own family childcare business. And so that's another aspect that as we continue to build this program and grow, it's to create those different pipelines. So maybe not everybody wants to work in an early childhood center, but maybe they want to start their own business. And so partnering with home care provider networks is really providing that pathway. And we're hoping to build pre-apprenticeship. So eventually our student who opened a family childcare business will get her own pre-apprentice. And that's how we're hoping to continue this work and build. And these are just some quotes that we had from our pre-apprentices, you know, that I feel more comfortable in the classroom. It opened my eyes to working with different ages. This pre-apprentice thought she only wanted school age and older kids, and then was in an infant classroom and realized that that was an amazing experience. And then one of our Spanish speaking students said, "La verdad disfruto mucho este programa de Preaprende porque como bien lo dice el nombre, nos ayuda a aprender en el salón de clase." So I really love this program because like the name says, pre-apprentice, pre-aprender, to learn. I was able to learn in a classroom. And that's what makes this such a different program, is that they're in a classroom with a mentor teacher learning as they go. And then our employer partners, if they could be here, we would have to tell them to calm down because this program has made such a difference for them. This first one, Aprende saved my center during cold season. Like they would have had to actually close the center and close classrooms if they didn't have those extra students in there. And then another one who said her staff were finally comfortable retiring because they could see who would be able to replace them. And I really think that's where the workforce was. People were holding on because they knew if they left, there would be nobody in place. But this actual employer said that 2 of her longtime teachers decided to retire because they knew that there was a pipeline coming in. And so I think those are things that we don't really think about when with this workforce, but anyone here who has kids knows that if the teachers don't show up, then you don't get to go to work either, because you have to stay home. So that's how this program is really making a difference. And so as we're thinking about our next steps, we are so grateful for the funding from the city. And nationally, this is a trend. Cities are stepping up to the idea that they have a role in supporting childcare in their economic development portfolio. But we need to figure out sustainable funding. And that's where support from this council will be helpful as we approach the early childhood department at the state level and helping us think creatively about this funding. We've been able to run this program with the funding from the city and also with private foundation support. And so we're going to continue to look towards the future as to how we build. And that's where that state level support and policy comes from. We've been approached by employers outside of Santa Fe. So we know that this is something that people need and want. And so we'll be looking at what that potential expansion looks like. And also continued recruitment. There's a lot of, I guess, just historical feelings about being in the field of education. And even though we know it's the most important job, maybe it hasn't been as well paid. And so changing that for our workforce is also really key to how we move forward with this program. And so thank you very much. I know I went through that very quickly, and I hope it was high level enough for a full understanding, and also that you got enough of the details to see where we are with this work. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. And just, well, this council knows, but for the public, 900,000 of our ARPA dollars were put into this program as really this proof of concept. And it looks like that is, it is proving its concept. So very happy to hear. Any questions or comments from members of the committee at this time? Councilor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. And just getting the data really helps us to set the foundation for us to work towards providing that sustainable funding, as you had mentioned. I think that one thing that's come out of the pandemic is that the need for childcare is probably at the highest it's ever been. And maybe, I've got a child that needs childcare, and I haven't been in that realm for quite a while, and seeing it, I don't believe it was that hard in previous years, whereas it's tough. The providers are minimal, and as any parent, you want the best for your kids. You want to provide the best opportunities for them, and having a workforce that can support that need is critical. And so I think that's where the work you're doing is helping to build that pipeline and really build a robust set of options and opportunities for parents. And I'm glad to hear that men are getting involved. It helps to break the stigma. I think it's imperative. It's imperative that we as a society don't see it as the female is the caretaker, mom is the one taking care of everything. Nannies are females, babysitters are females. Let's break that stigma, and a child can be loved by anybody as long as they're in a safe and supportive environment. And thank you for highlighting that. I think it's one of those responsibilities of government that we provide critical services to our community, and especially services that are in need and in demand that have an impact on other sectors. Because you can make arguments that with lack of childcare, there are X, Y, and Z outcomes. And I think that's where it takes a village approach, and so many issues, but this is one of those where it does take the village for us to raise our youth, our especially the most vulnerable, the youngsters that need the support, and provide them on a path to success. So thank you for this report. Definitely we'll dive into it deeper. That way we can figure out how to, again, provide that sustainable source of revenue for or funding for this. And I think doesn't solely have to come from the city. There's opportunities from foundations, private philanthropy, federal government, state government that I think the governor just announced a major initiative this afternoon, $30 million for some youth center. I can provide an update, but I saw that on my alerts. Huge investment in our youth going on right now. And so thank you for everything that you're doing. I really appreciate it. So no questions, Madam Chair, just more commentary and again, appreciate the work that went into this past year.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I it's been a while since my kids, they're grown up now, and I do recall how difficult it was to try to find a place for them to go and place where they were comfortable and where we were comfortable leaving them. And you know, I'm intrigued to see how this apprenticeship program works, because I think it's not just in this field, but across the board, where we're looking for people who have an interest in a certain field, and yet, yes, they may have attained a certain level of degree or a certain certificate or something of that sort. But when you get hands-on in the field, it's another world out there. And so this allows people to learn, and because, you know, I can study for a test and I can pass it. But when you actually get there to really be there, it's different. And I like the approach that this is this shows, because again, it's every time, the more time you spend in the field, the experience that you gain from that is where you see, is this a career path or is just a job? And you want people who have the heart that they want to be in this field. You know, and then how do you get them to where they can obviously be in a situation where it's sustaining for them as far as an income, and where they don't have to have multiple jobs or things. I look at that from my own perspective, you know, in the business, because you want people who are going to be there for the long haul, not just the short check, you know, the payday. And so I do appreciate this program. I like to see where it will evolve, where it will go. And thank you for the information. Thank you guys for being here.
And I would just add with that, you know, we never want 100% retention rate, because this is not for everyone. And it gives them a chance to try it out. And I used to run a teacher licensure program, and many of those people were put right into the classroom and figured out they didn't want to do that. And it was to the detriment of the children. And so when people find out that this isn't what they want, that should be celebrated as much as them continuing in a lot of ways. So I appreciate your thoughts on that.
No further questions.
Thank you, Counselor.
And if-
Counselor Chavez.
Madam Chair, if I could just.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Anytime.
So of course, I wanted to thank all of you, all the council, for supporting this. This was one of the first initiatives that came out of the ARPA funding based on evaluation that we saw in our community about the shortfall of early childcare. And so this was an innovative program. It had not been done. And so I just wanted to, you know, extend my gratitude and gratefulness for you all investing some of our federal ARPA funding in this type of project, because it has proved really successful outcomes. There's also an evaluation component, which I wish some of your other fellow council folks were here, because I know numbers and data and evaluation is really important. And so what I'll do is I'll circulate that initial evaluation to you all after this presentation, and also have it attached to the presentation on the committee agenda. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Director Sanchez. Counselor Chavez.
Thank you. This, being in the field of education, this reminds me a little bit of the alternative licensure program, in the sense that there's schooling and certification going along with experience. Of course, they are put in a classroom by themselves, so that's a little bit different. But I think that it has been successful, and the success that we've seen with that is that these individuals who never saw themselves in education are exposed to the experience, and I've had a lot of success stories with that program, where they've just fallen in love with the field, and they've actually been the most amazing individuals in regards to growth and open-mindedness and just really kind of being innovative in the field of education. They just bring a really fresh perspective that's really beneficial. But I was just wondering if you could expand on how the wage works for it, because like that's how the alternative licensure is very important to us because of the fact that we get a person in the classroom, cares about the community and kids and is willing to learn. And they start off as teachers, right? And that's why they're able to support in that way. But I wanted to see if you could just expand on that a little.
Madam Chair, members of the committee. So the way with the pre-apprenticeship, they start with just a stipend. And that stipend is paid after 50-hour increments. So the first 50 hours, they get 650. The next 50, another 650, and then the last 50 is 750. And that's just for them to get that initial field experience. When they get hired, they go on the employer's wage scale. So we have the minimum being that it starts at $13 an hour. Here in Santa Fe, that, you know, the city, there's a different minimum wage, but that's actually written into our program standards. But for the majority, they're starting at about $16 or $17 an hour. And then as they get more education, they're able to move up. And all of our employers are agreeing to that wage scale. And that's part of being a registered federal apprenticeship, essentially. We're the first registered apprenticeship in education in the state. And so we have to follow the federal guidelines that have that wage scale. But we obviously encourage our employers to start higher and move up, but didn't want to exclude anybody based on that. And this was all pre the state increasing funding. And so we do anticipate that with the increased childcare subsidy in pre-K, that these teachers will all be starting at higher wages and moving up.
That's great. Well, this is really exciting. I think it's just a way to support the shortage we have across the board, right? Early childhood all the way up. So it's exciting. So thank you for the work. I appreciate it.
If I could just add, we did have one pre-apprentice who actually had a degree from another country who is now doing alternative licensure. So we're really seeing this as a pathway that leads in multiple ways, including licensure.
Thank you. Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the good work you're doing. I'm really happy we were able to get a presentation about this because, you know, we don't always see the, you know, where we invest and how it's benefiting. And in this case, it seems like it's immediately having an effect, and building that pipeline is so important. So I appreciate your work and just giving us the just update on how this is going. And I guess what my colleague said, Councilor Garcia, about this kind of work, you know, historically, this kind of work in this field has always been devalued. And we know it's because historically women are the lead in this sector. And so unfortunately, that's how it's been. And I think just knowing how important it is to have not caretakers, but just early childhood development is so important. And so I'm just hopeful seeing that this is like building the support and infrastructure. And there's still a lot more work to do because this is such an important sector, and people shouldn't even there shouldn't be just stipends. They should be getting paid. And there's a lot of things that could happen. And I'm glad there's men joining the field. I just think that because this is a women dominant sector, it's often disregarded. So thank you for continuing to fight for the equity side of things for this field. And I guess I had a question about this type of model and the pre-apprenticeship, is this happening in other places in the country?
The model that we are doing with pre-apprenticeship, I have not really seen. There are youth pre-apprenticeships. We're actually part of quite a few national consortiums and presented this project
Good.
at a conference in California, specifically on early childhood apprenticeships. And people were really excited about this pre-apprenticeship model. There are elements in other places, but to me, I think that's the really innovative piece.
Yep.
Is you can't just start with people employed. You have to get them the tools to get there.
Right.
And that's why the pre-apprenticeship, I think is one of the things that's making this very unique.
That's what I was assuming, that there wasn't this happening. So I'm glad that we are the leader for this. And I hope you continue to spread the word about, how valuable it is so that other places will also adopt the structure and model. And I'm hopeful, and I'm sure our staff knows the importance of this. And so we can continue to fight for funding. And as we look at future budgets, because ARPA's not there. And so we need to think about how we build the pipeline and continue to support this in partnership with the, private sector, state, also the nonprofit and philanthropic sector. So yeah, I just think we need to continue the momentum, and not just because we had a pandemic, but because it's important and it's good for our children to thrive. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I really, really want to thank you all for this. Seeing this come to fruition, for me, it's been really exciting. I remember kind of the origins of this, sitting at Tia Sophia's, having breakfast with Kate Noble and former Councilor Beta, and talking about just kind of the skeleton of what this would look like, and to see what you have been able to turn it into is just, it's really incredible. So thank you so much. I cannot tell you how much I'm so excited to see that this has turned into what we hoped it would be. And at the beginning, we were really having those conversations about knowing that the state was going to be making these investments, or at least being pretty sure that this was going to happen. And how do we set ourselves up in a place where we can say, hey, look, this works, keep sending dollars, so that we can continue to take this innovative model throughout the city, and then be a model for the state and nationally. That's really, really incredible. So I just am so thrilled with the work that's happened here. And so thank you all so much for that. I also am curious how much longer we have ARPA funding for this program. I know we had 3 years from, is this it? Have we spent it all, or do we still have a couple more years where some of those dollars are going to be stretched?
Madam Chair, committee members. So we have the money is allocated, which is great. So we met our allocation deadline. We do have until December 2026 to expend the funding. Very soon, we're going to have a contract amendment in front of you all for review and approval, to actually readjust the budget so that they have more flexibility in being able to spend that money over the next couple of years. But right now, I think we've spent down probably approximately 25% of that grant.
Wonderful.
So we should be able to carry on for the next at least 2 years.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. That's good to hear. As Councilman Villarreal was mentioning, as we start to plan ahead of what this is going to look like, starting to have those conversations with ECD and where some of those state funding is coming from. I know that you'll be planning ahead, Julie, as you do, but really how we continue to make sure that this program continues. So just really want to thank you all. Thank you so much for being here, and keep up the good work. Okay, now that I'm done getting misty-eyed, let's move on to matters from staff. Oh, Madam Director Sanchez, if you can stay, that'd be wonderful. Moving on to matters from staff, I will send it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Yes, I want to tell you a little bit about some of the other updates on some of our ARPA programs. We had a really nice visit from Senator Heinrich's chief of staff recently, and their New Mexico staff, field staff, as well as some folks from DC. Actually, they were, by the way, sharing some news that we received an earmark for our alternative response unit vehicles. And when we started describing some of the programs that we had launched with our ARPA funds, the chief of staff, Rebecca Veta, was really impressed because she said, this is exactly what we all hoped communities would do with ARPA. Look at needs that had been unmet for a long time, use these funds to launch innovative programs and show that they can have immediate impact for people in need. So great example. And I think we have some other examples happening too, thanks to Ms. Sanchez in large part and her amazing staff. So $1 million in our eviction prevention funds, which actually is not ARPA money, that's general fund money, will be released in the Connect program September 15th. And that's one-time assistance of $3,000 to help people stay in their homes and apartments. In terms of ARPA, we have $2 million in direct cash assistance to city and county residents. Again, that's a partnership with the county on their $1 million of ARPA and $1 million of our ARPA. And those are one-time relief funds for people who are still feeling the effects of economic losses that they suffered during COVID. We're also proud to say that we're going to be doing a second round of our guaranteed income program at the community college. Again, a great partnership with the community college for young parents. We're going to be able to fund 98 student parents for $400 a month for a year, and that'll launch October 1st. The text messages announcing that opportunity to community college students has already gone out. And we're also going to be seeing the results of an evaluation of the first iteration of that program coming out from the University of Pennsylvania in October. And again, we were part of a nationwide Mayors for Guaranteed Income program because that group was very interested in advocating for this program to be a federal program. And so it'll be interesting to see how that evaluation comes out. We know from our own internal evaluation how impactful that was for those students. Again, a lot of connection here between the program you just heard about and that program. And then we also just wanted to let you know that project and program evaluations are super important, as you have all pointed out and guided us. And we are soliciting for project evaluations on our Safe Outdoor Space project, our guaranteed income, and our cash assistance programs. And then I also wanted to just let this body, if you're not already aware, be aware that the Human Services Department at the state level has recently heard testimony, and I also gave testimony regarding a reconsideration of guaranteed income programs or any kind of direct cash assistance programs to help people who are receiving other forms of public assistance not be penalized essentially for getting guaranteed income in addition to, for example, EBT or TANF or childcare or housing assistance. And there was strong testimony in favor of that rule change, which will help people with what's known as the cliff effect, right? So hopefully we'll see a change to that, and these guaranteed income or direct cash assistance programs, which have proven so effective during the pandemic, can be expanded and funded as we move forward, because people really do get stabilized. Keep going. Since we don't have a long agenda, I could tell you all about the wonderful things that are happening in the Department of Community Health and Safety. In terms of solutions to homelessness, our mobile hygiene unit, which you may recall we purchased with our CARES funding, we are finally very happy to report that we're partnered with Interfaith Shelter, Pete's Place, who put in an application to run that mobile hygiene unit to the Department of Health, and they were funded for that. So they'll be launching that very soon here. We have a lease agreement with them for a minimal amount so that they can offer, again, shower services and navigation services to people who are on the streets, and hopefully bring people into shelter and services through that. We also are very happy to let you know that the state recently awarded the city through our CASA Connections application $2 million for the continuation of non-congregate shelter and wraparound services. So we're very excited about that. They saw what we were doing at Consuela's Place, again, in large part with some of our federal funding, and have matched us and met us to hopefully continue that with a capital investment that'll get us into a new location, or get us toward getting into a new location. And then in terms of just community building and, all the things we do in community services and Maria Sanchez Tucker and her team do, I just want to make you aware and the public aware of a few things. Main Library has been painted. Have you seen it? So beautiful. And what a focal point for downtown. It's such an important historic building, and the staff are so proud and happy and have received a lot of really wonderful feedback from the community about how good Main Library looks. Personal favorite of mine, as I used to walk to that library as a kid and spend a lot of time there. So it's really nice to see. Outside. So if you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to walk on by and check it out. It's really nice looking. And then we also went to, you may have seen that period pods are available now at Lafarge and Southside. What these are is a month's bag of free sanitary supplies for women and girls, and the community is thrilled. It's a big hit. And then in terms of youth, of course, you've seen that we're going to have our grand opening of the Teen Center. You should be receiving more specific information by email, but it's going to be on September 22nd at 1:00. So you'll all be there, I hope, and you'll receive detailed information. And we'll have a ribbon cutting, and then it'll be open to the public that evening. And all the next day, there'll be movies and music, and it's incredible to see the progress that's happened there. In recreation, we're open weekends at the Bicentennial Pool, which is really nice. You may have seen a nice article in the paper about that. And Fort Marcy's open again because Bicentennial's only open on weekends. We still are about one pool short in terms of staffing with lifeguards. We've made a little bit of progress, but it's still a problem that we need to keep coming at from different angles. And then in seniors, if you have seniors in your life, they're all invited to the Baile de Oro tomorrow at the Convention Center. From 2 to 4, 60 and older. And this is in partnership with our Fiesta Committee. And also it'll be a really great event because neighbors from other senior centers in the region are invited. So that should be a really beautiful and fun event. And then I didn't get into everything that's happening in, police and fire, but please be aware that on 9/11 on Monday, we'll do our usual 9/11 memorial. That'll be at Station 1 this year. And as you may know, it begins at 8:45 with our firefighters in full gear climbing 2,226 steps in memorial for the 2,226 steps of the World Trade Center. So a very beautiful and important event for our community, and everyone is welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Director Cho is not sitting in our hands, but I wanted to tell you what's happening on the community development side. So on the economic development side, we have a lot of things happening in September. We have an online webinar series, and it's this month, it's on the 7th. The Collateral Assistance Program for Small Businesses is happening. Next week, we have a governor's conference on economic development. It's happening in Albuquerque, and the staff are going to talk about the South-South Feria program, where they could use, it could be done in different cities. And also, we received a grant from the EDA, with the Economic Development Administration of the government. It's called Good Jobs, Great Cities Grant. And so we're working also with the community college on a workforce program. So we're going to figure out how to build technical advisory and then get grant money to launch that out. And then also next week starts National Hispanic Heritage Month. And the third week of September is National Women's Business Week. And SCORE is sponsoring a large women business conference that is happening on the 21st of September. And then on the 22nd, the Hispanic Chamber has their 40 under 40 event. I don't know the location, but it's happening on the 22nd. And
It's
then
at the convention center.
Convention Center. Yes, that's right. And then on the community development side, we are just finalizing the agreement with the Trailer Ranch Mobile Home Park to put in public Wi-Fi. So we've been doing a lot of public Wi-Fi in the South Side, and Trailer Ranch Mobile Home Park is one of the ones that we've been working on. So we're finalizing that. And then we're also working with the State Broadband Office to secure a temporary broadband coordinator, because we are seeing that there are a lot more broadband opportunities in the city beyond just the for-profit side. So we're looking to go get a broadband coordinator there. On the planning and land use side, I got a note from our director that our building permits are up 100 over last year, and that they think at this rate, they're going to probably process 6,000 permits by the end of the year. And revenue is up by $9,000, which is a great thing. And then lastly, today was Director Chelsea Johnson's first day as Arts and Culture Director. You might have seen the announcement in the paper. She was in orientation all day, but today was her first day. And then hopefully the week of the 18th, we'll be naming our finalists for the Assistant Arts and Culture Director. So that's my update for now.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Moving on to matters from the committee. Any matters from members of the committee? Matters from the chair. I have none. Our next meeting is Wednesday, September 20th, and at 5:48 we are adjourned. Thank you all.